Hi, Juan. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about you?
Yeah, so basically, well, to start off, what I do for a living is I guess you can mention success coach, spiritual coach. So I work with energy and then I work with universal laws. And first of all, how I got into doing what I'm doing in the first place, because I think it's a very interesting story that a lot of people can relate to, right? Where do we start? So I'm 30 years old right now, right? And at the age of 18, I joined my first network marketing company. Now, I'm no longer in the industry anymore, but something very interesting happened, right? I was there for 3 years. And in my 3 years of being there, I never made one single penny. And I found it very interesting how brand new people would join this business. The same business I've been here for 3 years and never made any money. Brand new people are joining this business. And in the first 2 weeks, making up to $20,000, right? And I'm just like, why? Like, why is that person in 2 weeks making $20,000 and me in 3 years, I can't make one single penny? So it led me to want to study why some people succeed and why other people fail. And what I found along my journey towards personal development and spiritual growth was something very interesting. And I found out that there's two types of men, right? You have your magnetized man and you have your demagnetized man. So your magnetized man, everything he touches turns to gold. Everything he touches is a massive success. Everything he touches works. Everything he touches makes him a lot of money, right? And then you have your demagnetized man. Everything he touches is a failure. Everything he touches makes him no money. Everything he touches is nothing, no success, nothing happens, right? And when I understood the difference between both of these two, and first of all, I knew why I wasn't succeeding in that company because I was the demagnetized man. No matter what I did, how I did it, with who I did it, for how long I did it, nothing was going to happen. And so what happened is I kept studying, I kept learning. And then I stumbled across a gentleman named Bob Proctor, who happens to be my mentor now. And Mr. Bob Proctor, I went to one of his events, and I remember him saying, "If you do exactly what I tell you, your whole life will change." And what he was actually teaching us was about the law of attraction, not just the law of attraction, but other universal laws that work in harmony with the law of attraction. And when I understood these concepts, and when I understood how energy works, and when I started to apply this on a daily basis for 90 days, 60 days, my whole entire life changed. Everything shifted. Everything shifted from money, started to earn a lot more money. I started living in a healthier body because at the time I had really bad anxiety. My love life, my social life improved. And everything was just getting better. Everything was just getting better on a more effortless basis. I wasn't really trying as much, but things just naturally flowed to me. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. Why don't more people know about this? Why, you know? And then it kind of wanted to, well, I'm sorry, I kind of wanted to understand why more people don't know about this. So it led me to want to do what Mr. Bob Proctor is doing. And now I work with people one-on-one or in group settings. And the whole concept of this is to help them get what they want by teaching them, number one, how energy works. And number two, some simple universal laws, right? Because just as how we have man-made laws, if you break a man-made law, you lose, right? You lose. But if you break a universal law, you also lose. What does that mean? That means possibly the delay of your dreams or your goals. That means possibly not being happy. That means possibly not living in a healthy body. That means possibly continuing to fail, right? So if we break these universal laws, instead of being in harmony with them, you're on the opposite side of life. And that's where I used to be. I used to be in a place where I was not happy. I was blaming everyone for my success. I was blaming the outside circumstances for my health and well-being. I was blaming situations and circumstances for my financial situation. And that was never the case because permanent change happens on the inside first before it can happen in the physical outworld. So To sum things up, I went to work for Mr. Bob Proctor, and now I work with people, like I mentioned, people and groups, and basically teaching them where they are and where they're going through the power of their subconscious mind, along with working with the universal laws.
Awesome. Wow, so that's a lot to kind of unpack. Just to discuss something real quick. So with, and this is kind of a recurring theme that shows up in a lot of different disciplines. So how important is self-talk and inner dialogue to the work that you do?
It's everything. It really is everything, because the story that you're telling yourself, the self-image that you see of yourself ultimately affects your success, right? Because if you, let's just say an example, if you want to become a multimillionaire or a successful business owner or a successful person in anything, but you internally, subconsciously, you see yourself, you have a poor self-image as someone who fails, someone who doesn't have enough money, someone who lacks people skills, someone who is just socially awkward, someone with no confidence. If that's how you see your self-image on the inside is going to project your results on the outside. So in order to have permanent change, you have to change your self-image first. And self-image is a result of self-talk. So if you have positive self-talk, not necessarily positive, but if you have a clear written description of the person you intend to become, and if you have a whole script, that is your new self-image. What you want to do is you want to impress that upon your subconscious mind. Because, and I know this is maybe a little off topic, but let me just explain this real quick and then we'll jump back. So basically, I want to say the subconscious mind works like a laptop, right? A lot of us at an early age, we were programmed. And we were programmed negatively. And in my example, I was programmed with lack of money. There was never enough money. There was never enough money to get what I wanted. It was too expensive, blah, blah, blah. That's what my parents would always tell me. So that's the subconscious program that I grew up with. And when I got to that company that I was in, that's what my results were, because I lacked. So I like to compare the human mind to like a laptop with a virus. If a laptop had a virus, it wouldn't function the same, would it? You have to put a new program. You have to install a new program in order for the laptop to function the way it needs to function. And that's how the human mind works, right? If we have problems with our health, if we have problems with our love life, we have problems with our finances, if we have problems with our success and happiness, there is a little virus there. There is a little virus in your subconscious mind. And until that virus is altered, nothing's going to happen. Absolutely nothing will happen. People want to change the outside. People want to change the result. People want to change the behavior. People want to change things in the outer world. But in reality, just like the laptop, if you don't change that virus, you don't get rid of that virus, absolutely nothing will happen in your life. Nothing will happen in your life. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they stumble across this naturally and they waste so many years of their life. As it happened to me, I wasted probably like 5 years of my life not knowing this information. And when you know this information and you apply it successfully, drastic increase in your life and everything. So to go back to your question, self-talk is everything. Self-talk is absolutely everything. It can be the difference between being a successful person or not being a successful person. And like I said, self-talk goes hand in hand with the image you see of yourself. Because there's two images that we hold, right? You have the image that you project to the outside world. And then you have your inner image, the way you see yourself. And the way you see yourself is going to determine how you feel, how you act, how you walk, how you talk. And that's what's going to manifest physically in terms of the type of person that you are and your results as well.
Yeah. You kind of discussed it, I think, or you kind of started to hint at it, but do you have a process or a suggested method for writing down the way you want to see yourself?
Absolutely. So basically what you want to do is so step one, I would say, is relax, right? Like just go lay down somewhere, go sit down in a quiet place and just relax. And what you want to do next is step 2 is you want to grab a sheet of paper and a pen after relaxing for probably 15 minutes. You mentally start painting an image of the person you intend to become, the person you want to become. So for example, observe a couple of people in your life. It could be family or friends. They could be celebrities. They could be actors. They could be musicians, whatever it is, whatever the case may be. But say, look, I want to be charismatic like this person, or I want to be a top salesman like that person, or I want to have extreme self-confidence like this individual. And what you do is you collect specific characteristics and traits from all these people, not too short, not too long, of course, but enough. And then you write it out in current statement. So I am this, I am that. I am so happy and grateful now that I am a confident person. Have a strong self-image. I am an expert at selling, whatever the case may be, right? Whatever the case may be, that the person that you want to become, you have that script written, and then you begin to auto-suggest it. You begin to read it. You begin to physically feel it as if you are already that person. You begin to literally auto-suggest it enough. And on average, it takes about 66 days to form a new habit, whether it's a physical habit or a mental habit. So if you do this consistently enough, you read your self-image script every single day, you will become the person that you intend to become.
I actually really like that. I've always felt that who I've kind of become as a person has always been a result of family and friends and the people in my life. And I think I've weeded out the bad stuff. I think I've done a good job. I've done the work. So I think what's been left are the good attributes of the people that I trust and that are in my life and my loved ones. So I like that that is such an intentional way of mapping out who you'd like to become.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Now, you kind of started to touch on it too, but one of the things you discuss is that some people need to work on unlearning things. Is there anything else you want to expand on in that category? Because it seems like that could be really significant.
Yeah. So first, if you're going to begin to learn a new habit or a new behavior, a new subconscious program, you need to first start to unlearn what you've learned, right? So for me, I had to unlearn being broke, living in poverty, living in lack. Some people have to unlearn, I'll give you an example. So this happens with relationships a lot, with men and women. What typically happens is they get hurt, right? They get cheated on. And what happens is that being cheated re-edifies their new way of thinking. So they're going to say all men are the same or all women are the same. And they're going to keep continuing to attract that same situation of a person that's going to cheat on them, right? Because until they change that train of thought, nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. Absolutely nothing's going to happen. So what they have to do is they have to start thinking different. Right? They have to start introducing a new way of unlearning things. So in order for them to create different results in their life, they have to unlearn the process of being cheated on. Because in reality, that's not the case. That's not the case with everyone. Not all men aren't like that. All women aren't like that. That's their own reality that they're living in. That's their own reality that they're experiencing. It's not my reality. It's not your reality. It's their reality. And until they do something about unlearning that reality and unlearning these ways of their self-perception and their whole reality around them, nothing's going to change. You have to begin to unlearn before you relearn, right? And it all happens. There's 2 ways to create change. So number 1 is bam, just like that. It's called emotional impact. Now, emotional impact doesn't happen that much, but when it does, it's typically very negative. So for example, 9/11, September 11, that was an emotional impact, right? It changed a lot of people's perceptions of reality of their own world. Typically when it does happen, like I said, it's very negative. Something like that could be like a near-death experience, an emotional impact that just shifts you just like that. And then the second way to create change is through a process of constant spaced repetition. So repetition of a same idea over and over and over and over again, right? Whether it be you repeat the same affirmation, listening to the same affirmation, whatever it is, But first, that's a very good question. Like I said, you have to unlearn in order to start learning.
So unlearning itself, is that, it sounds like it's a combination of actively doing something, maybe finding new examples, new dialogue, but is it also kind of more just questioning those thoughts when they pop into your brain? So like you mentioned if you were cheated on, and it's like not all men are cheaters. So when that idea or when that tendency pops up into your head, is that where you need to refute that and say, no, that's not true? So I guess, what does unlearning look like? What does the actual process and application look like?
So for me, it's a very simple concept, right? We have two important parts to our mind that I always emphasize on. I'm sure there's a lot more, but me personally, I emphasize on two specifically: the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, our conscious mind is our intellectual mind. This is the part of our mind that allows us to think, to make decisions, to reason. This is our logical part of our mind. In this part of our mind, we have the ability to accept or to reject. So when I say unlearn, is when you have one of these new ideas, or the same idea of all men are the same, for example, reject. If you don't want to accept that anymore, you don't want to continue to have that reality anymore, you can unlearn it by rejecting it. I don't accept this thought anymore. And the second you make a decision that I no longer want to accept this way of thinking, I no longer want to accept this as my reality, you begin to reject that idea, right? And when you reject that idea, you must impress upon your subconscious mind, or your conscious mind as well, a new idea. So you're rejecting an old idea and you're bringing on a new idea.
Okay. So
So
that
that
kind
for
of,
me, that for me is relearning.
so it kind of brings it back to your self-talk, where you're like, no, I don't want to accept this. This is not true.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So one of the things you talk about are, it's your video was the 7 steps. How important would you say it is for people to challenge themselves when they're setting goals?
Oh, it's super important. I believe goal setting, like we like to say, goal setting, the whole purpose of a goal is not so much to get the thing you're after, but the whole purpose of a goal is to cause you to grow, right? Because at the end of the day, one of the football coaches, Lou Holt, he says, in this world, you're either growing or you're dying. So get in motion and grow. And so if we're not setting the right goals, what are we really doing? We're not growing. We're not growing. The whole purpose of setting a goal is to set something so big that you've never done before, that you have absolutely no idea how to get it, right? Because what happens when you set those types of goals, it's going to cause you to get out of your comfort zone, to really, really reach and to grow. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel not so good in the beginning. But if you condition yourself that this is what I'm going for, this is where I am, this is where I'm headed, you condition yourself that way, that is the whole purpose, to cause growth. So at the end of the goal, you not only have the thing that you want, but you're also a different person. You're also a different person. Because going back to the self-talk and the self-image, you can never outperform your self-image. You can never outperform your self-image. And that's the same thing with a goal. You can't be, someone who's working a minimum wage job. You can't have that same train of thought and reach millions of dollars. You can't do that. You're going to have to grow as a person. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to acquire more knowledge. You're going to have to shift your vibration. You're going to have to shift your consciousness, right? And when you do all these things, it's going to cause growth, because you're no longer the same person that you were. You're now a different person. You have now grown. You have now grown physically. You have now grown mentally. You have now grown from a vibrational standpoint, and you are now a different person. So, if they're setting the wrong goal, in my opinion, if they're not growing, if they're not challenging themselves, if they're not pushing themselves, in my personal opinion, what I feel is that they're not setting the right goal.
Right.
They're either shooting too small, or they're not doing it the proper way.
Okay. So if someone is kind of in a rut and they're just kind of having difficulty getting started, or, it's like I've kind of found in my life that once I get going, momentum builds. I believe in trusting processes. And I'm a very linear person, so that's easy for me, and I understand that it's not easy for everybody. But if someone wants to get going, but they're just kind of in a rut and they don't really have the momentum, do you have any tricks or ideas for how to kind of just get started with goal
Yeah,
setting and improvements and growth?
that's a very good question. Yeah, actually. So first of all, what I would do is I would just mentally relax again. And why do I keep saying relax? Because when you have a million thoughts racing in your mind, you really can't, you can't do anything of consequence, right? So just relax, just clear your mind, just release all your thoughts. And what I would do is I would literally write on a sheet of paper, what do I want, right? Where am I in life right now? And where am I headed? What do I want? What do I want? Because oftentimes if you just kind of stay stuck or stagnant, it could be the result of a lot of things. And sometimes it could be a result of not setting the right goal, So reevaluating, is this what I really, really want? Right. So number one, I would just get clear on what it is that you really, really want. And number two, what I would do is just continue to express gratitude. Because again, from a vibrational standpoint, from an energy standpoint, gratitude is the secret. Gratitude is almost like putting the law of attraction on steroids, right? Gratitude is basically being thankful for what you have. And when you're focusing on what you're thankful for, you are now focusing on the positive pole of life, what I do have, instead of what I don't have. When you focus on what I don't have, you're thinking about lack. When I focus on what I do have, you're thinking about abundance, right? So when you're thinking about what you do have, you are being an abundant person. You're functioning on an abundant vibration, an abundant frequency. So the universe is going to only reflect to you whatever it is vibrationally that you're holding. If you're projecting vibration, through the law of attraction, you will receive, if you're projecting abundance, through the law of attraction, you will receive abundance in return, right? And so what I find most, when you're in that stagnant state, nothing's happening, right? Nothing's happening. And the second that you start expressing gratitude, you begin to move things in the positive direction. You begin to start attracting better people to you, better circumstances to you, better events to you. You begin to start flowing back in that flow state, right? Versus being stuck in that stagnant state. So, for me, those are the two most important things that I would do immediately. If you ever feel stuck, those are the two things that you have to do it. And when I say express gratitude, I mean grab a sheet of paper, a paper and a pen, and not just say the basic stuff. Thank you for the food. Thank you for my house. No, really, 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 really challenge yourself. Really challenge yourself. Be grateful for something that you really have to really look at your house and really see, what am I grateful for? What can I give gratitude for? Right. For example, I am grateful right now for this laptop or this little webcam that I'm talking to right now. Why? Because probably 15, 20 years ago, this didn't exist. But now that it does exist, I'm very, very grateful for it, because now me and you can communicate, right? I'm grateful for this pullover that I'm wearing, because it keeps me very, very warm, right? I'm grateful for this cup that I'm drinking water from. Really, really look at things. It could be, I'm grateful for this beautiful tree outside of my house. But the key here is to really genuinely feel the gratitude. Because if you're just speaking words, nothing happens. What you want to do is you want to really tap into the feeling. So for me personally, when I'm in a rut, when nothing seems to be working, those are the two things that I tap into. And then just like that, almost instantly, I now begin to flow my life in a different, back into where I was headed to before, stagnating.
Okay. So zooming out a little, how would you recommend, or I don't know if recommend's the right word, but if someone needed to evaluate what the influences in their life were. How would you recommend going about that, or what would you suggest? Or
Influences in terms of people, you mean?
yeah, I don't want to say positive or negative because I know
Hmm.
that you've discussed energy, or I was reading up a little bit about energy, and it's not necessarily negative or positive. So I guess
Hmm.
just in general with influences and the energy around you and what other people are putting off. It could be anything. It could be your job. It could be school. It could be just obligations you have. It could be the people in your life. So I guess if we were to zoom out, do you have any advice on how someone could evaluate what is contributing in a productive way or not?
How someone can feel if it's something productive for them or not, you mean?
Yeah, or a good influence.
Hmm. Yeah, so basically, we can't control people around us. We can only control ourselves. So I would just look at this very simply. I would just observe the people around you, and do you really want to live like that person? Do you like the results of that person specifically? And if you don't, don't hang around them. Don't be with them. Don't listen to them. Don't take their advice. But also, oftentimes, a lot of the stuff that happens around the world can affect us personally as well, right? So for a lot of the people, this whole global pandemic it really hurt a lot of people. It
Mm-hmm.
really scared a lot of people. It really put someone in the opposite vibration, right? It created a lot of fear, a lot of scarcity, a lot of illness for thousands of millions of people, right? But the way I see it is this, look, the way I see it personally in that aspect. So basically what I want to say now is, what do I do when things around the world are not in harmony with what I want, are not in harmony with, my true main purpose? If things are negative, but I want to maintain positive, what I do is I don't really focus much on that, right? Like me personally, I don't watch the news. I don't
Mm-hmm.
watch the news at all. I don't watch the news because, all you hear is lack, scarcity, people getting killed, people getting murdered, people, dying, people getting raped, people losing, And so why would I want to impress all of those ideas in my subconscious mind? For what? Right? If I'm headed in a good direction, I need to feed my subconscious and my conscious ideas and things that are in harmony with what I want to believe, with what I want to experience in my reality, with how I want to live, right? So I just focus on that side of things. I don't let the world around me dictate my results. Like my mentor, Bob Proctor says, he says, the economy doesn't control you. You control the economy. You control your own economy, right? During the Great Depression, a lot of people, lost a lot of their jobs, but at the same time, a lot of millionaires were created also. Why? Because when there's a huge, huge problem, there's also a huge, huge solution. So it's all about the perception of how you see everything, right? How you accept ideas and how you reject other ideas. If there's something in or around you that's happening that you don't like, reject it. Reject it. You don't need to accept it, right? You don't need to accept it. Absolutely not. Whether it's regarding your finances, your money, your happiness, your health, your love, you don't need to accept it if you don't want it. And
Yeah.
so that's a big reason why I don't really tune into the media, the news and newspapers, and sometimes even family and friends, right? I'm really, really careful of how I guard my energy. I'm really, really careful on who I give my energy to and where I spend my time. Because ultimately, I know it's going to influence, if I do it often enough, it's going to influence my way of thinking. And if I let something influence my way of thinking, I'm no longer headed in the direction that I want. I'm now pulled to the opposite direction, right? So it's very, very, very crucial that somebody really analyzes what they're giving their focus and their energy to, because ultimately, if you do it often enough, it will affect your life.
Yeah. So, what do you think? And this can be related to your work or just and your personal life. What do you think is the most worthwhile habit someone can have, or multiple habits?
That's a very good question. Number one, the habit number one and the most important thing is being consciously aware of what you're thinking. Being consciously aware of what you're thinking. Because oftentimes, like, in the law of attraction, we become what we think about. We become what we think about and what we feel most of the time. So what are you really thinking? I read somewhere, I don't know if this is accurate, but I'm pretty sure it is. They say that the average person has about 66,000 thoughts a day. 66,000 thoughts a day, conscious or subconscious, right? And so what are you thinking about? What are you really thinking about? If your thoughts are not in harmony with your goal, your desire, the person that you want to become, you're never going to get it because you're not controlling your way of thinking, And if you have a really, really big goal, you can never control the world and you can never control people around you unless you can first control yourself. And how can you control yourself if you can't even control your inner thoughts, right? So number one, for sure, your thoughts, like you say, your self-talk. Number two would be the habit of discipline, the habit of being a disciplined person. Because when you're in the process of changing yourself, it's going to require massive discipline. There's something I teach called the knowing doing gap, right? And so basically there's an enormous difference between what you know and what you do. There's a huge gap between what you know and what you do. Like how many people do you think started off the New Year's with a resolution of, I want to lose weight. I want to be a healthier person. I'm going to start going to the gym, But how many of those people right now are eating a piece of cake, right? Because there's an enormous difference between what you know and what you do, right? And a big part of that is discipline. That does play a part in that discipline, becoming a disciplined person. And number three, I would say would be auto-suggestion. So basically suggesting to yourself, suggesting to your subconscious mind, the person you intend to become. I'm sure there's a lot more that I can probably give you a whole list of, but to me personally, these top three are absolutely especially if you're someone that wants to create change, you're someone that wants to create massive change in your life. And I mean permanent change, not just change for 15, 20 days, but I'm talking permanent change. Then these three are the best way to start. Absolutely.
Okay. So I know you've talked about your mentor. Are there any other influences that have really significantly changed you?
Yeah, absolutely. So along the journey in my network marketing career, there was a bunch of different leaders that I worked personally with that had a huge, 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 influence not only on my self-image, but on the way I see life, my whole philosophy, the way I think, the way I hit a goal. But aside from my mentor and then, the leaders from the network marketing industry, someone who has really influenced my life as well, I would say would be another author that, that teaches something similar to what we talk about is Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard is someone that I've really, really studied a lot. And he really has influenced not only the way I live, but the way I think, the way I feel, the way I walk, talk, dress, act, etc. So I want to say those specific people are the ones that I really, really shape my self-image after and, ultimately shape my life after as well.
Okay. So at this point with what you've accomplished, how is your time best spent?
How is my time best spent?
Yeah.
So basically my time best spent is always continuing to grow, because like I mentioned earlier, you're growing or you're dying. There's no neutral in life, right? People think that I'm just here, but there's no such thing as being neutral, right? You're either growing or you're dying. There's a basic law of life that says create or disintegrate. You're either creating or you're disintegrating. So I want to make sure that I'm always creating. I want to make sure that I'm always growing. I want to make sure that I'm always moving forward, no matter how old I am. No matter if I'm 30 years old or if I'm 94 years old, I'm always going forward. So habits or a little daily routine that consists going forward could be anything from, um, I'm not much of a reader, but I do listen to audios. I do listen to courses all the time. So I'm always listening to something. Um, I'm always visualizing where I'm going next. I'm always visualizing where I'm headed next. I'm always living there in my conscious mind where I'm going. I'm always tapping into the feelings and the emotions. Let's see what else. I'm always reading my goal statement. I'm always reading my new self-image statement, right? And I'm making sure that I don't really waste time. Of course, there are a lot of things that I love to do. I have hobbies, I have passions that I really love, that I enjoy doing. But if I'm not enjoying those things at the moment, I'm making sure I'm doing something productive that's going to ensure the future that I want to create.
Nice. Yeah, I was reading something, it's been a while, but basically it laid out the idea that you can decide how you want to split up your time, but the point of it was to at least know how you're spending your time. Like if you're watching, well, I guess each person gets to analyze how productive their time is spent. So like if you're watching TV or you're watching movies or you're playing games, like if that's maybe not what you consider productive time, then at least be consciously aware of how much time you're spending doing that, so you can make an active, intentional decision on whether you are okay with the time you're spending on that. So it's kind of like just at least getting knowledge and being aware of your circumstances so you can make your own judgments on what you are okay with or not, or what you want to change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Earl Nightingale says, he says, you can't manage time, but you can manage activity, right? So really, really prioritize a day. What are my priorities? Like that's how I function. The night prior before going to bed, I grab a list, right? And I prioritize what's the most important thing I need to do, right? And that's the first thing that I write down. The most important task, the biggest task is the first one on my list. What's his name? I believe Brian Tracy has a book about this called Eat That Frog,
Oh,
right? Eat That
yeah.
Frog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically prioritizing the number one biggest thing first. Eat that frog or eat the crust,
No,
whatever
it's eat the
you,
frog.
yeah. And so basically nobody wants to eat the frog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they always continue to leave it at towards the end. And at the end of the day, when they've accomplished 1,000 little mini worthless tasks, they still haven't ate the frog,
Yeah.
you know? And that's the difference between successful people and non-successful. Successful people get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They get uncomfortable. They create a habit of becoming uncomfortable and doing the things that they're not comfortable with, right? And the non-successful, they want to be comfortable. And I know exactly what that feels like because I was once that person. And, it didn't give me the results that I wanted to get. So by eating that frog first, creating the number one important task and knocking it out as soon as you wake up in the morning is just going to make you feel amazing.
Yeah.
So managing activities, prioritizing your activities is absolutely crucial.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Do you have anything else? That's kind of all I have.
Um, I do want to mention one thing. I would like to say if someone's watching this video right now and if it sort of resonates with you, if something resonates with you, but you simply don't understand it yet, what I recommend to you is watch it over and over and over again. Because like I mentioned earlier, there are only two ways to create change: emotional impact and through repetition. And repetition is how I changed my life. Repetition of a new way of thinking, repetition of a new idea, right? So if you watch this video at least 2 to 3 times a day of the information that we covered, or not only just this video, but it could be an audiobook, right? If you listen to an audiobook, you listen to it every single day. What's going to happen is it's going to start changing the way you think. And when it changes the way you think, you're becoming a different person. Because if you change the way you think, you're vibrating on a different frequency. And when you're vibrating on a different frequency, you're becoming a different person, attracting different things and circumstances in your life. In essence, what we're doing is you're planting a new idea into your subconscious mind. And that's how people change. That's how people change, through constant spaced repetition of a new idea. So I highly recommend watching this video over and over, or watching another video that, that you're learning from. Watch it over and over. And through the process of constant spaced repetition, sooner or later, something's going to click inside you. Sooner or later, you're going to see something in yourself that wasn't there before. You're going to start to feel different. You're going to start to think different. You're going to start to act, walk, talk different. And then you're officially on your way of becoming a new person. So for me, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you've shared. I think you've
I
given
really,
a
really
lot of
appreciate
just great ideas and practices. Right on. Thank you.
I really appreciate you.